Hello, and welcome back to Mini Adventures Mini. So this week and next week, I'm going to be doing a bit of a two-parter video, going over a couple of miniatures that I printed out and painted as Christmas gifts, which is something I was working over December, but couldn't put up until this month, obviously. And then I also wanted to get my giveaway out of the way and wanted to mess around with the stuff I had last week. So this is the soonest I really got around to showing off the work that I did over December. So this was for a family member of mine who really likes Star Wars and particularly likes some of the stuff to do with Ahsoka. So I found this model, or some people helped me find this model actually, of Ahsoka and the Rancor in a fight. And so it's a two-parter because there's the two models. This week I'm going to be starting with the Rancor, and next week I'm going to be printing and painting a model for Ahsoka. I've already completed all of this, but I have all the footage, and next week I'll be putting out the Ahsoka video, but this week is for the Rancor. And just as like a little bit of a disclaimer, I don't normally paint for the intention of display. My paint style is heavily focused around usable, playable figures. I really like to get stuff painted to as high a quality level as I can in as short a time period as I can manage. That's kind of what my painting style is built around, so it's not really that conducive to display quality stuff, but I kind of try and give it my best shot here, but I'm still kind of painting with my usual style. So whether that works or not is kind of up for debate. But let's go ahead and I'll jump in and show you how I painted the Rancor. Alright, so here's our initial images for the Rancor. As you can tell, possibly I've gotten it all assembled and printed with primer and whatnot. This one didn't print as cleanly as I would hope, so I had to do quite a bit of filling with green stuff and the like in order to get all of the joints around the arms and the body all as seamless as I could. And I've primed it in my light gray Vallejo primer that is my preferred primer for most things. But going in, I'm using these three inks that I have as kind of a way to get a lot of the bulk of this work done quickly. I'm going to be doing a quick zenithal, and I like these inks because they're basically ready to go into the airbrush and they work really good for this kind of thing. Have just enough transparency that I can get some light mixing going on if I want. So I just start with the black and then do a 45 angle spray with this medium gray, and then do a 90-degree spray with the white in order to get these highlights with a gradient to dark shadows. And then in order to tint it all, I take my burnt umber ink and again run it through my airbrush, and I'm just going over until I get everything to the opacity that I want, and I get this nice rich brown that's got a good gradient from light to dark across the entire model. And I'd say that this completes like 80% of the work in less than like 10% of the time it would have taken to do this all by brush. But after I do all those steps, I use my matte varnish just to seal all this, because I've learned that if I don't do that, it will run when I start getting wetter paints or trying to dry brush. It will fleck off. So that's just kind of like a sealing layer to help keep everything in place. When you airbrush with inks like this, it's kind of necessary once you airbrush with the ink and then move on to a brush. I've had a couple instances where the inks just start peeling off underneath the wet application of a brush. Like if you do a wash right afterwards without sealing it, the ink starts coming right off and you lose all the effect of the work that you just put into it, and it's no fun. But after that has all settled, I'm going in here with the skeleton bone, as you can see, and just picking out some of the extra details. There aren't a lot of extra details on this Rancor. It's pretty much just like these teeth, mouth, and eyes. But I go through and carefully hit them when trying my best not to get any paint where I don't want it, because at this point it would be difficult to clean up with exact matching, since I don't really have any brush-on paint that would match it that way. But then I use these couple colors of red just to do the inside of the mouth, give a little bit of a highlight on the tongue so that it stands out. And it looks pretty drastic right now, but that won't stay that way for too long. Once it dries, it becomes a lot more subtle and blends in pretty well. And just going back over and touching over, because I had to put this brown on, it's pretty dark, and so I have to do a couple layers of this bone in order to get a full coat. Otherwise it just kind of looks a little streaky and doesn't quite look right. So I have to go and coat everything a couple times. And you can probably tell, like I said before, that I'm not really doing too much different from my normal painting style, even though this is supposed to be just for display, not for play. But as I said before, that's not really my style. I haven't really practiced for it, so I'm just doing the best that I can with the way that I know how to paint. And I think it came out decently good overall, if maybe not what some people would consider display quality, but I guess everybody has a different judge of that. But here I'm using my homemade Sepia Wash. This is more of a dark brown wash to coat everything, and it helps me get the cracks and crevices inside all of this guy's folds of skin. I'm not getting it on the on any of the parts that I've painted with the bone color, because I've found that that looks a lot better with the burnt umber rather than the sepia, so I just get all the areas around it and leave those areas as uncoated as I can for the most part. And I'm just coating everything to help give everything just that extra level of contrast. I think it helps out a lot. Just get everything coated. This part takes a while, just soaking something in wash. It's not necessarily all that elegant of a solution, but at the time I felt like this is what it needed, and I'm not unhappy that I did it, so pretty happy with the end results at the end of it though. But next I'm coming in with my matte black and white, and you couldn't really see it there, but I just used it to pick out the eyes, which you'll be able to see in the ending photo. It goes by so fast in this sped up video. But here I'm just starting to pick out some areas, doing a little bit of dry brushing on the base, adding some orange in just to differentiate it more from the Rancor's body. But since I already did all the browning on it and the base looked like it was kind of just like a textured earth color, I decided to just stick with it. I think Rancors tend to live in kind of more arid, deserty like areas. I'm not super up to date on Rancor lore, but that was the impression I got from the small amount of research I did on the subject. But here comes out my burnt umber wash for me to go over all the bone colored bits. Really helps bring everything together. Oh yeah, on the Rancors, that's the reason they were so quick is because Rancors don't really have white eyes, they're just black, so I did black eyes with just like a little dot of white to make them stand out. Give them almost like a little light reflection coming off of the black eyes, so that they weren't just plain black. And then I use the black to blacken the edges of the base, because that gives it a better presentation look to it, which I definitely knew was important for something I'm going to hopefully have as a display piece. I do this normally, but it's even more important for something like this in my opinion. And then the final step of using the varnish in another coat with all the layers of varnish and glossy medium in my washes. This model will be very strong, and I doubt any paint will ever chip off of it. But here we go, the final images, and I feel like it came out looking pretty good. A Rancor is not that complicated of a creature. I feel like if I tried to do too much more, it would have overdone it. I might have could have done some more interesting texturing in the skin or something, but overall I'm pretty happy with what I managed to achieve with the basic techniques that I applied. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed that. I had fun putting this one together. It's a pretty short video, but it was some fairly simple techniques. A Rancor is not all of that complicated, so there wasn't really much to do. Hopefully you'll see some more interesting stuff in next week's video with Ahsoka, so if you don't want to miss that, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified whenever I put the next video up. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. It's greatly appreciated. And if you have any feedback, please comment below. I love reading people's feedback. It's a big highlight of my week when I get that kind of thing. Also, if you'd like to support me, please check out the links below to my Patreon page and my Etsy store, where you can purchase some of the things that I have painted and put up on the store. You can also find news and updates for the channel on the Facebook page, which will also have a link below. So please go check out that if you're interested. And with that, I hope to see everybody back here again next week.